What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Day Proof Cooking. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a classic staple piece for dinner. I'm talking about a pot roast. They're just super easy and they're fantastic to make any night of the week. So definitely pay attention because you'll really like what I'm making here. And hey, if you don't know how to make one, you'll know how to make it after this. So without any further ado, let's get into it and I'll show you how to make an awesome pot roast. Okay, so let's start making this pot roast. Now, what you'll see in this video is just how quickly this comes together and how easy it is. Like, this is the prime reason why pot roast is such a staple piece in so many people's households for dinner. Now, what I'm going to be using is this 3-ish pound chuck roast, and it looks just absolutely awesome. So, what you'll want to do is just cover all sides of it in some kosher salt, flip it, add a little bit more on each side. You just want to put a little sprinkling on each side, and then similar to the salt, throw some freshly ground black pepper on. Look at that. Look at how nice that is. So set that aside for a moment and let's talk about the vegetables I'm going to be using, starting off with a large white onion. So you'll want to cut this up, but you don't want to cut it up too finely. Just make nice large rough cuts because when you're cooking them in with the roast, if they're too small, they'll just turn into mush and you don't want that. So just rough cut these up like I've done here. Put them in a bowl and set that aside and go get yourself 3 stalks of celery, 3 medium-sized carrots, and 3 to 4 parsnips. All of these are going to taste great when cooking alongside this pot roast. So, similar to the onions, just rough cut these up. Again, because you're going to be stewing these for a couple hours in with the pot roast, if they're too small, they're just going to turn into mush, and you want them to retain some of their form after they're cooked. So, cut the carrots up into large pieces, same with the parsnip. Now, not everybody likes parsnip, and I'm not usually a huge fan of it, but I think this is going to just taste heavenly when mixed with the carrots, the celery, and that gorgeous looking chuck roast. So, cut up the celery into larger pieces, maybe give your daughter a piece if she's bugging you for one. There you go, Rose. And then once you have the celery all cut up, throw it into the bowl alongside your other vegetables. Give it a good little toss, and maybe give one other piece to your daughter if she's still asking for more. Alright, set that aside and let's talk about potatoes. I'm going to be using a couple of russet potatoes here. Now, I put 5 in the bowl here and I realized soon that that would be too many, so I ended up using 4. Again, just rough cut them up because they're going to stew alongside the pot roast for the next couple hours. So put them in a bowl, and now let's head into the kitchen to start preparing the actual roast. So get your Dutch oven out and crank the heat up to high on your burner and throw a little olive oil in. What we're going to do here is sear all sides of the chuck roast for 2 reasons. One, it really sears and locks in the flavor and just really brings out the flavor in the chuck roast, but it's also going to develop a nice fond on the bottom of the pot, which is going to really enhance the flavor of the gravy we're going to make at the end of this from the resultant juices of the pot roast. So really you just want to sear this for about 2 to 3 minutes per side, basically once you can lift it off of the pot without it sticking too much. Once you have seared all sides, take it out of the pot for a couple of minutes and then start throwing in your vegetables. So what I do here is I'll throw in the onions first alongside with a couple cloves of garlic. So I'm going to use 4 cloves of garlic in this pot roast. So once the garlic is added in, what you'll do is grab your wooden spoon and then just stir it in with the onions for a minute or 2 until both become nice and fragrant. Once that's done, we're going to deglaze the pot by adding in about 1.5 cups of dry red wine. I use Cabernet Sauvignon. And then to deglaze it, you just run your spoon over the bottom, scraping off all of that fond that has developed on the bottom. Once it has been removed, go get your chuck roast and throw it back into the pot alongside 2 to 3 cups of beef stock. And then it's pretty straightforward from here. Start throwing in your vegetables and stuffing them in alongside the pot roast. Next in is the potatoes. There you go, just keep stuffing them in. And then we're going to add in a few spices. I'm going to use a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. You know, you can use as many or as little as you want. It really depends on how much spice you like in your pot roast. Next in is a couple of sprigs of fresh rosemary, and then you're going to want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Cover the Dutch oven and cook this for anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Now I'm using that time range because it all depends on what you want the final consistency of your pot roast to be. If you cook it for longer, it becomes way more tender and almost like fall apart, but when that happens, it can dry out a little bit more. So I cooked mine for about 2.5 hours so that it didn't become like a shredded beef. I wanted it to retain its structural integrity, if you will. So anyways, after 2.5 hours in the oven, take the pot roast out of the juices and set it aside. Look how gorgeous that looks. And then from there, just start taking out all of the carrots, the parsnip, the celery. Take all the vegetables out and set those aside for a couple of minutes, because now we're going to make a gravy out of all of these juices that have just developed a crazy good flavor over the last 2.5 hours. So start ladling it out into a saucepan, and then realize really quickly how slow it is to do that, and just, you know, throw on your oven gloves instead and pour the rest of the juices into a separate saucepan. Should have done that from the beginning. So throw the juices on a medium heat, and then add in 2 to 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now this is going to thicken it up nicely. You can use less if you want a thinner gravy, or use more if you want a really thick gravy. Add some kosher salt and some freshly ground black pepper for taste, and then mix that all together, and there you go. You got yourself some fresh gravy out of the amazing flavors that came from that pot roast. Look at that. Look at how gorgeous that looks. So anyways, let's go into the other room and start plating up this pot roast. And here it is. Look at how nice that is. So just start cutting it off into strips like I've done here. So as you can see, it's cooked all the way through. It's nowhere near rare, but I did that for good reason. This is still going to be just crazy tender and just really delicious. Like I can't stress enough, it'll be really tender, but not so tender that it's falling apart and dries out. So anyways, just arrange it in a visually pleasing manner, then throw down your vegetables in front and your potatoes at the back there like that. And then go get your gravy. Oh, look at that. That looks so good. And pour it all over the actual roast. There we go. Look at that. That's a pot roast, ladies and gentlemen. Look at how good that is. Oh my God. Oh, let's give you a little close-up shot. It is just teeming with amazing smells. It just smells so damn good. Let's have a quick taste test here. And oh man, is that ever good. It is just so rich and flavorful and just amazingly delicious. Oh man, if you don't know how to make a pot roast, I hope this episode did help you learn how to make one, because it is just so rewarding to make something as delicious as this, and it's so easy, as you've been able to see. But anyways, that's the end of the episode. I hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking, and we'll see you again soon.